Jabari wakes up before the sun does. His alarm goes off at 5:15 a.m. in a tiny apartment where the ceiling has a crack running from one corner to the other like a scar. The walls are bare except for one thing: fashion sketches taped in neat rows, dozens of them, all drawn by his own hand. Dresses, suits, jackets with sharp shoulders and flowing hems. Each one is a dream he has not been able to afford yet. He works his first job at a laundry shop from 6 a.m. to noon, folding other people's clothes, pressing other people's shirts, making other people look good. Then he rushes across town to his second job at a small grocery store where he stacks shelves until 9 p.m. By the time he gets home, his feet ache and his eyes are heavy. But before he sleeps, he always draws. Always. Jabari sends half of every paycheck to his grandmother in a small town 3 hours away. She raised him after his mother left and his father never stayed. She's the only family he has that feels real and solid. He calls her every Sunday. She always says the same thing: "Baby, keep going. Something good is coming." He believes her. He has to. Jabari carries his sketchbook everywhere. It is old and soft at the corners, the pages thick with pencil lines and ink smudges. People on the bus have asked about it. A woman at the laundry shop once told him his drawings were beautiful. He smiled and said thank you and tucked the book back under his arm like it was the most precious thing he owned. Because it was. He is not angry about his life. He is not bitter. But he is tired in a way that goes deeper than sleep can fix. The kind of tired that comes from working hard and still feeling like you are standing in the same spot. He wants more. Not more money exactly. More space. Space to create. Space to be seen. He does not know that today is the day everything changes. The rain starts in the early afternoon, sudden and heavy, the kind that makes the whole city smell like wet concrete and old metal. Jabari runs into a cafe to get out of it, still wearing his laundry shop uniform. A plain gray shirt with a small logo on the chest, dark trousers, worn-out sneakers. His sketchbook is tucked under his arm, already a little damp at the edges. The cafe is warm and crowded. He squeezes to the counter, orders the cheapest thing on the menu, a small black coffee, and turns to find a seat. He does not see the man behind him. He does not see the expensive charcoal suit, the polished black shoes, the still and commanding way the man stands like the room belongs to him. Jabari turns. The coffee goes sideways. It hits the man directly on the chest, the white shirt underneath the open jacket, now soaked through with dark coffee, spreading like a stain across expensive fabric. The cafe goes quiet. Everyone stares. Jabari's face goes hot. He looks up, and meets the coldest, most intense pair of dark eyes he has ever seen in his life. The man does not shout. He does not flinch. He does not even blink. He simply looks at Jabari with an expression that is impossible to read, not angry, not amused, not anything that makes sense. Then the sketchbook slips from under Jabari's arm and hits the floor. It falls open to a page near the middle, a detailed sketch of a structured coat with asymmetric buttons and a dramatic collar, shaded carefully in pencil. Beautiful and precise. The man looks down at it. A long pause. He looks back up at Jabari. "Come work for me," he says. His voice is low and even, like a door closing quietly in a quiet house. Jabari blinks. What? The man reaches into his jacket pocket, pulls out a card and places it on the counter beside Jabari's spilled coffee cup. Then he turns and walks out of the cafe into the rain like nothing happened at all. Jabari picks up the card. It reads, Do-yoon, CEO, CN Fashion Group. He stands there, soaking wet, heart pounding, with no idea that the most important and most dangerous chapter of his life just began. Jabari stares at the card for 3 days before he calls. He sits on the edge of his bed the first night, holding it between 2 fingers, reading the name over and over. Do-yoon, CN Fashion Group. He looks the company up on his phone. The website is sleek and dark, full of runway photos and minimalist clothing that looks like it costs more than his rent for 6 months. The kind of fashion that appears in magazines he reads at the library because he cannot afford to buy them. He tells himself it is probably a mistake. The man was confused. He was being polite. There is no way a CEO of that level meant what he said to a boy in a laundry shop uniform who just ruined his shirt. But his grandmother's voice plays in his head. Something good is coming. On the 3rd day he calls. A woman answers, calm, professional, expected the call. She schedules him for an interview the very next morning. Jabari hangs up the phone and sits very still for a moment. Then he opens his sketchbook and draws until 2 a.m. The CN Fashion Group building is made of glass and gray stone, tall and sharp against the city skyline. Jabari walks in wearing the best thing he owns, a dark navy blazer he bought from a second-hand shop 2 years ago and has kept in perfect condition, dark trousers, clean white shirt, and his one pair of good shoes. He carries his sketchbook. He always carries his sketchbook. The receptionist leads him to a top-floor office. The room is enormous and almost completely empty of decoration. A desk. 2 chairs. One large window with a view of the whole city below. And Do-yoon, standing with his back to the door, hands clasped behind him, looking out at the skyline. He does not turn around immediately. Jabari stands in the doorway for a full 10 seconds before Do-yoon speaks. Sit down. No greeting. No smile. Just those 2 words, spoken the same quiet way as in the cafe. Jabari sits. Do-yoon turns, takes the seat across from him and opens Jabari's sketchbook, which he somehow already has a copy of, photographed and printed. Jabari feels a small chill at that. He did not remember anyone photographing his drawings. For 40 minutes, Do-yoon asked Jabari questions. Not where did you study or what are your qualifications. He asked things like, what are you trying to say with this collar shape? Why asymmetric? What feeling does this fabric choice create? Real questions. Design questions. The kind that nobody at either of Jabari's jobs had ever thought to ask him. Jabari answers honestly. He forgets to be nervous. He leans forward in the chair and talks with his hands and explains his thinking with more passion than he has used in months. By the end he feels slightly embarrassed, like he has shown too much of himself too quickly. Do-yoon closes the printed sketchbook pages. He is quiet for a moment. Then, you start Monday. Junior design assistant. The pay is here. He slides a single sheet of paper across the desk. Jabari looks at the number. It is more than both his jobs combined. He keeps his face calm. Inside, his heart is doing something complicated. Why me? Jabari asks. Do-yoon looks at him for a long moment without answering. Then he stands up, signaling the meeting is over. Because your drawings are honest, he says. Honest things are rare here. He does not look at Jabari again. He walks to the window. The meeting is clearly finished. Jabari walks out with the job offer paper folded in his blazer pocket, his mind spinning, his chest full of something that feels dangerously close to hope. He starts Monday. The first 2 weeks at CN Fashion Group are uncomfortable. Jabari's desk is at the far end of the design floor. A long, open space full of mood boards, fabric samples, and designers who have gone to schools he has never heard of and wear clothes that cost more than his monthly rent. They are not cruel to him. They are simply indifferent, which feels almost worse. They look at him the way people look at furniture, present but not particularly interesting. Do-yoon passes through the floor exactly twice a day. Every time he enters, the energy in the room shifts. Back straighten. Conversations stop. People find things to be very busy with. He walks through without slowing down, without commenting, without acknowledging anyone. Until one morning, on his second pass through, he stops behind Jabari's desk. Jabari is sketching. Not an assigned project, just something for himself that he started during his lunch break and kept working on. A long structured coat with panel lines that follow the human body the way rivers follow land. Natural, inevitable. Do-yoon stands behind him for almost 30 seconds before Jabari notices. He spins in his chair, startled. Do-yoon says nothing. He picks up the sketch, studies it for a moment, sets it down. Finish it, he says. Proper render. On my desk by Thursday. He walks away. That is how Jabari gets his first real assignment. By the 4th week, strange small things begin to happen. Jabari's favorite snack, a specific brand of honey-roasted cashews that he buys from a corner shop 3 blocks from the office, starts appearing on his desk every Monday morning. No note. No explanation. The first time it happens he asks around. Nobody knows anything. The second time he looks up and catches Do-yoon's assistant walking away from his desk just a little too quickly. By the 6th week, Jabari is working late on a deadline. The design floor empties out. The lights dim automatically except for his corner. At 10 p.m. Do-yoon appears, still in his full suit, jacket now removed, sleeves rolled to the elbow. He sits down in the empty chair beside Jabari's desk without asking. He looks at the work on screen. For the next 2 hours he teaches Jabari things that no design course would cover. How fabric responds differently to body heat than to mannequin forms, how the fashion industry reads a garment's intent before it reads its construction, how to make something feel inevitable rather than designed. He speaks in short sentences. He never praises. But he keeps coming back to Jabari's ideas like there is something in them worth excavating. Jabari watches him more than he means to. Up close, Do-yoon is different from the man who walks the floor like he owns the air. There are shadows under his eyes that suggest he almost never sleeps. When he is focused on something he finds genuinely interesting, the coldness in his face gives way to something very quiet and very human. They start doing this regularly. Late nights, just the two of them, working and talking, about design at first, then about other things. Jabari tells Do-yoon about his grandmother, about the sketchbooks he filled as a child when the apartment was too loud and the world felt too heavy. Do-yoon listens in a way that most people do not, like he is filing every word somewhere important. One night, Do-yoon tells Jabari something small, that he has not eaten anything he actually wanted for dinner in 6 years because there is always a business obligation attached to every meal. Jabari laughs, a real laugh surprised out of him. Do-yoon looks at him when he laughs. Not coldly. Not analytically. Just looks. Jabari stops laughing. Something in the room changes. Neither of them says anything about it. But Jabari walks home that night with his hands in his pockets and his face tilted up into the cool night air, and he thinks about how dangerous it is to like someone this much this fast. He thinks about it, and then he draws. Love does not arrive the way Jabari expected. He always thought falling for someone would feel like a decision, something you could see coming and choose to prepare for. But with Do-yoon, it happens the way rain happens. You are inside somewhere warm, and then you look up and realize it has been raining for a while and you did not notice when it started. It starts with the car rides. Do-yoon's driver begins dropping Jabari home after late nights at the office. The first time, Jabari protests. His apartment is far, it is out of the way, he can take the bus. Do-yoon says only, the buses don't run this late on that route. He has checked. The fact that he checked is the thing that undoes Jabari a little. In the car, they sit in the back seat with a careful space between them. The city moves past the windows and streaks of light. They talk, sometimes about work, sometimes about nothing important. Do-yoon asks Jabari once about the first time he felt like a designer, not just someone who draws. Jabari tells him about being 12 years old and taking apart an old shirt of his grandmother's and rebuilding it into something new with a needle and thread he borrowed from a neighbor. Do-yoon is quiet after that for a long time. Then he says, that's the difference. You make things because you have to. Most of the people on my floor make things because someone told them to. It is not a compliment exactly, but it lands like one. There are small moments that pile on top of each other until the weight of them becomes impossible to ignore. Do-yoon rearranges Jabari's work schedule without telling him, moving a stressful review meeting from a Monday morning to a Wednesday afternoon because he overheard Jabari mentioning that Monday mornings are when he calls his grandmother and he does not like to be unsettled before that call. Jabari finds out about this weeks later, accidentally, from a scheduling assistant who thinks he already knows. He stands in the hallway for a long moment after hearing it. Do-yoon remembers that Jabari takes the stairs instead of the elevator. He never comments on it, never asks why, he simply always goes to find Jabari by the stairwell instead of calling him to the elevator bank like he does with everyone else. Small things. Quiet things. The kind of things that would mean nothing individually but together form a shape that is unmistakably someone paying careful and deliberate attention. Jabari falls. Completely. Quietly. The way only people who have never been truly seen before fall, with their whole heart and almost no defense. And Do-yoon falls too, though it does not look like falling from the outside. It looks like stillness. It looks like a man who has spent his entire adult life making every decision from a cold and calculated place suddenly finding that one person makes him want to be different. Not perform differently. Actually be different. One evening in the car, the rain is heavy again, the same kind of heavy rain as the cafe as the beginning. Jabari is looking out the window and Do-yoon is looking at Jabari, and when Jabari turns and catches him looking, Do-yoon does not look away. He holds the look. His expression is open in a way that Jabari has never seen on his face before. What? Jabari asks softly. Nothing, Do-yoon says. But his voice is different. They sit in the parked car outside Jabari's building for 20 minutes after they arrive because neither of them moves toward the door. The rain fills the silence. The windows fog slowly. They do not kiss. They do not say anything significant. But when Jabari finally gets out of the car and walks up the steps and turns to look back, Do-yoon is still watching. Still there. Jabari goes inside and sits on his bed in the dark for a long time, pressing his hand over his chest, feeling his own heartbeat like it is something new and slightly terrifying. He is completely in love. And he has absolutely no idea yet what it is going to cost him. The feeling starts the way a headache starts, so slowly that you keep telling yourself it is nothing. Jabari notices the first strange thing on a Tuesday evening in his 3rd month at Seon. He is working late, alone on the design floor, when he hears voices coming from Do-yoon's office down the hall. The door is not fully closed. He is not trying to listen, he is walking to the printer, but the voices are low and urgent in a way that makes his feet slow down without his permission. He cannot hear exact words. But the tone is wrong. It is not a business meeting. It sounds like men who are used to having conversations that leave no evidence behind. He walks past quickly. He does not stop. He tells himself it is nothing. The second thing happens the following week. A black car parks outside the building at 11 p.m., not unusual for a company like Cian where late meetings are normal. But three men get out who do not look like businessmen. They are large and quiet and they move through the building's side entrance like they have done it many times before. Jabari sees them from the stairwell window on his way out. One of them has a tattoo that runs from his wrist to the back of his hand. He tells himself it is security. Private security. That is normal for a man like Do-yoon. The third thing is a name. He hears it twice in the same week, spoken in separate hushed conversations near the elevator, by people who stop talking the moment they notice anyone nearby. He does not know what it means. He writes it in the margin of his sketchbook by accident, the way you write things when your hand is moving without your mind's instruction. Later he stares at it. Chul. He crosses it out. He is very good at telling himself things are fine. He has had a lot of practice. Growing up the way he did, you learn quickly that noticing too much and saying too much leads to complications, and complications are expensive when you can barely afford rent. You learn to file things away under not my business and keep moving. So he keeps moving. But there is a night, a quiet, ordinary Thursday, when he is waiting in Do-yoon's office to return some fabric samples he borrowed, and Do-yoon is running late, and Jabari sits in the chair across from the large desk and waits. He does not snoop. He is not that person. Except that the desk has papers on it, and the top sheet has his name on it. He sees it clearly from across the desk. Jabari, written in neat print inside what looks like a table or a list. He does not touch the paper. He does not move closer. He sits very still and tells himself it is probably a performance review. Probably scheduling. Something normal. He is an employee. His name is in documents. That is normal. Do-yoon comes in 3 minutes later, warm in the way he is only warm with Jabari, a slight loosening around the eyes, a deliberate slowing of his usual cold efficiency. He apologizes for being late. He makes Jabari stay and eat delivery food at the office because neither of them has had dinner. They sit across from each other at the big desk and share noodles from cardboard containers and talk about a fabric exhibition that is coming to the city next month, and whether Jabari wants to go. I'll take you, Do-yoon says simply. Jabari looks at him. Like, together? Yes. Jabari smiles. His whole face does it before he can slow it down. He walks home that night feeling warm all the way through, the sketchbook under his arm, the autumn air cool on his face. He thinks about the exhibition. He thinks about standing in a room full of beautiful things next to Do-yoon. He does not think about the paper on the desk. He does not think about the voices behind the door or the men through the stairwell window. He has filed it all under not my business. It fits neatly there. For now. It is 1:17 a.m. when Jabari finds it. He is not supposed to be in the office. He came back for his sketchbook, left it on his desk after a long evening, realized at home, came back with his key card because the book is the only thing in his life that he cannot leave behind. He walks through the empty design floor, picks it up from his desk, and is heading back to the elevator when he passes Do-yoon's office and sees that the door is open and the desk lamp is on. Do-yoon is not there. Just the lamp. Just the papers. Jabari is going to keep walking. He almost does. But the top folder on the desk is open, and from where he stands at the doorway he can see his own name again, clearly, unmistakably, printed at the top of an organized document. This time he does not tell himself it is a performance review. Something cold and certain moves through him, the same feeling as hearing something break in another room. He walks in. He sits down in front of the folder. He reads. The first page is a profile. His profile. Photo from his employee ID. Name, age, address. Previous jobs. His grandmother's name and town. His route to work. His habits, which stairwell, which cafe, which street. It is thorough and it is careful and it reads like a document prepared before he ever stepped into this building. The second page is a map. A map of checkpoints, building security locations, delivery routes, inspection points. And a series of dates, all corresponding to days that Jabari made design deliveries for the company, carrying his sketchbook full of samples and swatches between Cian's locations and partner studios. The third page explains why. There are notes, typed, clinical, detailed, about how the deliveries were structured to carry information through security checkpoints without raising flags. Information that someone inside those checkpoints could not move safely. But someone from the outside, someone clean, someone with a creative professional reason to travel between buildings with a bag full of papers and fabric samples, they could walk right through. Someone like a junior design assistant. Someone like Jabari. The final page is older. a strategy document. And near the top, in a section labeled Acquisition Plan, is a summary of how Do-yoon identified the right candidate. Someone young, someone talented enough to be convincingly hired, someone without connections to the industry, someone who would be grateful and trusting. Someone who would not ask too many questions. Under selected candidate, his name is. Jabari sits with this for exactly 4 minutes. He knows because he watches the digital clock on Do-yoon's desk move from 1:19 to 1:23 in complete silence. Then he closes the folder very carefully. He places it back where it was. He stands up. He straightens the chair. He picks up his sketchbook. He walks out of the office, down the stairs, never the elevator, not tonight, not ever, through the lobby, out into the cold night air. He does not run. His legs feel strange and distant, like they belong to someone else, but he walks steadily, one foot and then the other, until he is 2 blocks from the building, and then he stops under a streetlight and stands very still and puts one hand flat against the cold metal of a lamppost because he needs something solid. The late nights. The cashews. The car. The rain on the windows. I'll take you. His grandmother's name in a file. His route to work. His route. Written down before he ever walked through that door. He does not cry. Not yet. He is somewhere past the place where crying starts, in the numb flat country on the other side of it. He starts walking again. He knows where he is going. He is going to Temmie's. He grabs only his sketchbook, his real sketchbook, the worn one, his, and he does not go back. Temmie opens the door at 2 a.m. without asking why. She takes one look at Jabari's face, the flatness of it, the way his eyes are present but pointed somewhere far away, and she steps back to let him in. She does not ask questions. She goes to the kitchen and makes tea that is too sweet because she always puts in too much sugar, and she brings it to him on the couch where he has sat down slowly, like his body is doing it without instruction. Temmie's apartment is small and full of life in a way that feels like the opposite of Cian Fashion Group. Plants on every surface. Fabric swatches she collects from markets pinned to one wall. A large second-hand sofa with mismatched cushions. It smells like shea butter and last night's jollof rice and something that is just Temmie, warm and safe and permanent. She sits on the floor in front of the couch, both hands wrapped around her mug, and she waits. Jabari talks. He tells her everything. From the cafe to the car to the office to the late nights to the car rides. He tells her about the cashews on Monday mornings and the rearranged schedule and the stairwells and the fabric exhibition they were supposed to go to next month. He tells her about the document. His name at the top. His grandmother's name. His route to work. He tells it all flat and steady without drama, because he has nothing left in him to perform with. Temmie does not interrupt. She watches his face throughout with her bold eyes steady and serious. When he finishes, she is quiet for a long moment. Then she says, "I never trusted him." Jabari looks at her. "I know you didn't want to hear it. I know you were happy. And your happy looked so different, Jabari, you were lighter. I wasn't going to touch that." She pauses. "But I never trusted him." Jabari nods. He does not say anything. "Being fooled by someone you trusted doesn't make you a fool," Temmie says. "It makes them a monster." And that is when Jabari finally cries. Not elegant tears. The real kind, ugly and sudden and loud, the kind that come from somewhere below the chest, from the place where you store everything you told yourself was fine. He cries for the love that was real on his side and a strategy on the other. He cries for the version of himself who sat in that car with fogged windows and pressed his hand to his own heartbeat and felt something new and terrifying and wonderful. He cries for his grandmother's name in a folder. He cries for being chosen for what he was, useful, clean, grateful, trusting, instead of who he was. He cries for a long time. Temmie does not try to stop him. She moves from the floor to the couch beside him and puts her arm around his shoulders, and she just stays there, solid and present, not making it about anything except "I am here and you are not alone." When it is over, he is hollow and exhausted in the way that sometimes, if you are lucky, comes before something else. Something quieter. Something that can eventually be rebuilt. He sleeps on Temmie's couch that night. She brings him a blanket that is too heavy and warm for the season, and she tucks it around him with the same no-nonsense efficiency she does everything, and she turns off the lamp and goes to bed. In the dark, Jabari stares at the ceiling. He thinks about Do-yoon sitting in his office right now, or maybe at home, or maybe in some meeting with dangerous men. Does he know yet that Jabari found the file? Is he afraid? Is he relieved? Is he nothing? Because for Do-yoon, nothing might have been real, which means there is nothing to feel the absence of. That last thought is the one that hurts the most. Not the betrayal. The possibility that he was the only one who was real. He closes his eyes. Tomorrow he will start figuring out what to do. But tonight he is just a person on a too soft couch under a too warm blanket, learning how to breathe around a hole in his chest. Do-yoon arrives at the office at 6:30 a.m. as he always does. His assistant meets him at the elevator with a tablet and a rundown of the morning. Meetings, calls, sign-offs needed. He takes the tablet and walks to his office. He notices immediately. The chair is not where he left it. He always leaves his chair at a specific angle. It is a small thing that most people would not see. He sets the tablet on the desk. He looks at the folder. It is closed now, placed carefully, but it has been moved. The bottom left corner is not where he left it. He stands very still for a moment. He calls Jabari's number. It rings out. He calls again. The same. He goes to the design floor. Jabari's desk is as it always is, sketchbook gone, which is normal. Sketchbook goes everywhere with him. But there is a honey-roasted cashew on the corner of the desk, the last one from the Monday morning bag, which Jabari always saves and eats last. He always eats it last. It is still there. Do-yoon stands at the desk for a long moment. His face gives nothing away to the room, to the designers beginning to arrive, to the assistants moving around him with careful distance. He looks like the same man he always looks like, cold, composed, unreachable. He is not. He goes back to his office and closes the door and calls Ryu. Ryu arrives in 7 minutes. He is always nearby. He is a lean, angular-faced man with hooded eyes and the particular stillness of someone who has spent many years in rooms where stillness is a survival strategy. He closes the office door behind him and reads the room before he says anything. He found the file, Do-yoon says. Not a question. Then he knows everything. Ryu's voice is flat and professional. He is a risk. You know what we do with risks. The silence that follows is very long. No, Do-yoon says. Ryu looks at him. It is not a look of surprise exactly, more like the careful look of a person recalibrating. Do-yoon? Send people to find him. To watch him. Not to touch him. That is not protocol. I know what the protocol is. Do-yoon turns to the window. Find him and make sure nothing happens to him. That is the only instruction. Ryu is quiet for a moment. Then, this is a problem you are making larger than it needs to be. Do-yoon does not answer. He stares out at the city, the same city he has looked at from this window for years, calculating and mapping and deciding. The same city where, somewhere out there, a 22-year-old man with a worn sketchbook and soft eyes is trying to figure out how to survive what Do-yoon built. He picks up a glass from his desk and throws it at the wall. Not in a showy way. A single quiet motion. It shatters against the wall and falls in pieces, and the sound is very brief and very sharp. Then the room is quiet again. Ryu does not flinch. He has seen worse. He was not supposed to. Do-yoon starts, then stops. He does not finish the sentence. He does not know exactly when the plan became something else. He did not build space in his architecture for something else. He is the kind of person who identifies a vulnerability and closes it, who sees a gap and fills it, who does not leave things to chance. Feelings were not part of the structure. They were not in the folder. And yet, keep him safe, Do-yoon says again, quieter. That is all. Ryu leaves. Do-yoon sits down at his desk. The folder is still there. He opens it. He looks at Jabari's photo, the employee ID picture, slightly too serious the way everyone looks in those photos, but with something in the eyes that even a bad camera cannot flatten. He closes the folder. He sits in the wreckage of what he built, clean, organized, perfectly planned, and he feels it come apart around him in a way that no plan can account for. Jabari has been at Temi's apartment for 11 days when the knock comes. He is not doing nothing during those 11 days. Temi gives him her laptop and her Wi-Fi password and space, and he uses it. He begins careful and quiet and slow, pulling threads he learned to find while working at Cian. The company's public records. Financial filings. The names of subsidiary studios and partner organizations. He is not trained in this kind of investigation, but he spent 3 months sitting beside one of the most careful men alive, watching how information is organized and stored and moved. He paid attention. He always paid attention. He finds connections. Between Cian Fashion Group and shell companies. Between shell companies and import records. Between import records and a name that keeps appearing in different forms, C Park. HP Holdings. Chul Park Enterprises. The name from Do-yoon's office hallway. The name he wrote by accident in his sketchbook margin and crossed out. Chul. He does not know what to do with what he is finding. He writes it all down in the back pages of his sketchbook, in handwriting small enough that it looks like notes about fabric or color in case anyone looks. Old habit. Then on day 11 the knock comes. It is not the door of Temi's apartment exactly, it is the door of the building downstairs, and the intercom buzzes and a man's voice says he is looking for Jabari. Temmie looks at Jabari. Jabari looks at the intercom. He does not answer it. The man comes back the next morning. This time Jabari looks out the window and sees him from above, stocky, broad-shouldered, standing on the pavement with two others slightly behind him. The man looks up. Jabari steps back from the window. But he sees the face, the scar near the jaw, the calculating eyes, the particular stillness of someone who is used to waiting. Jabari goes downstairs alone, against Temmie's very loud objections. They sit at the small cafe across the street. Chul orders coffee he does not drink. He speaks good English with a heavy accent, and he is charming in the way that immediately makes Jabari distrust him, the kind of charming that is designed rather than natural, that has been practiced for rooms like this. He tells Jabari that he knows what Do-yoon did. He says he has been building a case against Cian Fashion Group for years and that Jabari is exactly the kind of witness he needs, someone on the inside who was directly used, directly harmed. He says Jabari deserves justice. He says he can give him protection, money, a new apartment, a way out. He is very convincing. Jabari listens to all of it without speaking. He watches Chul's hands. They stay flat on the table, too controlled, which is what hands do when someone is managing themselves very carefully. He watches Chul's eyes. They are always half a second ahead of the words, which is what eyes do when someone is running a presentation rather than having a conversation. Jabari says, "Why do you want to bring Do-yoon down?" Chul smiles. "Because he is dangerous. Because people like him should be held accountable." "That's not the real reason," Jabari says simply. The smile does not move but something behind it does. Jabari says, "You're not trying to help me. You want to use me the same way he did. Just in a different direction." Chul leans forward slightly. The charm drops a degree. Beneath it is something harder. "You are in a very exposed position, Jabari. You should consider your options carefully." "I am," Jabari says. He stands up. He picks up his sketchbook. "Goodbye." He walks back across the street, goes up to Temmie's apartment and closes the door. Temmie is standing in the kitchen with her arms crossed. "Well?" "He's worse than Do-yoon," Jabari says. "I could have told you that from the window." "I know." He sits down. He opens his sketchbook to a fresh page. "I need to think." After Chul, Jabari stops going to the window. Not out of fear exactly. More out of focus. He makes a decision, quiet and firm the way the best decisions are made, that he is not going to keep running. He has run from his neighborhood, run from his limitations, run from Do-yoon's building in the dark. And each time he ran, someone else was still standing in the same place, waiting. Running is not the answer. He needs to build something. So he draws. Temmie gives him the corner of her bedroom, a small patch of space by the window with good natural light in the mornings. She sets up a little desk from a folding table she was keeping in the hallway. She does not make a big thing of it. She just puts it there one morning and says, "Your corner," and goes to make breakfast. Jabari starts drawing in a way he has never quite drawn before. Everything that happened to him comes out onto the page. Not as images of Do-yoon or Chul or the office or the file, but as shapes. As garments. As a whole collection of clothing built from the architecture of what he has been through. A coat with a hidden interior, structured and beautiful on the outside, with a complex lining that only the wearer can see. For everything you carry that nobody knows about. A dress with seams that run on the outside rather than being hidden, exposed and deliberate, making the construction visible. For the things you stopped pretending were invisible. A jacket with two different fabrics on each side, one rough, one soft, so that depending on how you wear it, you show a different texture to the world. For the people who have had to be two things at once just to survive. He designs 30 pieces in 3 weeks. He works through the mornings and into the evenings, breaking only when Temmie appears with food and refuses to leave until he eats it. The work pours out of him in a way that feels less like creativity and more like excavation, like he is digging something out that has been buried too long under the weight of just trying to survive. One afternoon he sits back and looks at what he has made, the pages spread across the folding table, taped to the walls, stacked on the floor, and he feels something shift. Not happiness exactly. Not yet. But something underneath happiness. The ground that happiness is built on. Clarity. Purpose. The specific feeling of a person who has remembered what they are made for. He begins to understand something that is very hard to hold on to when you are in the middle of being hurt. That his love was real. He did not make it up. He did not imagine it. The warmth he felt, the being seen, the late nights and the careful kindness, he felt those things genuinely. They happened to him genuinely. What Do-yoon did was not erase what Jabari felt. It was build a lie beneath it. The feeling stood on a rotten foundation, but the feeling itself was not rotten. It was real. It was his. His love was real. His pain is real. His talent is real. His grandmother's name in a folder is real. All of it is real, and none of it cancels any other part of it out. What was done to him was wrong. What lived in him was not. And those are two completely different things. He says this out loud quietly to the room. Temi, passing in the hallway, stops. She leans in the doorway and looks at him. She sees something in his face that has not been there since he arrived at her door at 2 a.m. holding his sketchbook like a life raft. There you are, she says simply. Jabari looks at her. I'm not running anymore. She nods. No speech. No celebration. Just a nod. The nod of a person who recognizes someone finding solid ground. Good, she says. And goes back to the kitchen. Jabari turns back to his drawings. He picks up his pencil. He is not going to run. He is going to choose how the story ends. Jabari finds Adiz the way you find the right tool for a specific job, by knowing exactly what you need and looking until you find the person built for it. He has been reading her work for 2 weeks before he contacts her. Articles in 3 different publications, each one more precisely researched than the last. A piece about shadow financing in the Korean fashion industry that is so carefully sourced it reads like a legal document in the form of a story. A profile of a closed import company that unraveled 2 years of hidden transactions in 6 paragraphs. She is the kind of journalist who does not sensationalize, she simply lays the truth out flat and lets it speak at full volume. She is exactly what he needs. He sends her an email from a new address. Short. Specific. No names, no accusations. Just a line that says he has direct evidence related to a story she has been investigating, and that he wants to meet in person only. He signs it with his first name. She replies in 40 minutes. When and where? They meet at a public library, Jabari's choice. He feels safer in libraries. He grew up spending hours in them, reading fashion history books and design theory texts that he could not afford to own. Libraries are places where information lives freely, which feels right for what this meeting is. Adiz walks in exactly on time. She is a tall, deep brown-skinned woman with locks pulled back neatly and sharp, intelligent eyes that assess the room in a single sweep the moment she enters. She finds Jabari at a corner table and crosses to him without hesitation. She sits down, places nothing on the table between them, and says simply, "Talk." Jabari talks. He is careful. He is very careful. He tells her the structure of what he found, not the personal parts, not the love and the car rides and the cashews, none of that, just the mechanics. The delivery system. The shell companies. The name Chul and the network beneath it. He tells her that Chul's organization is the more violent of the 2 operations, the more immediately dangerous, and that exposing it would cut a real artery while leaving room for the other side to face a different kind of accountability, the slower, legal kind. Adiz listens without interrupting. She asks 3 questions, each one precise and targeted, cutting straight to the structural gaps in what he is telling her. He answers each one. She nods once at the end. You have documentation? Some. Enough to verify the foundation. You'll need to build the rest. I've been building it for 8 months, she says. You just gave me the missing wall. She looks at him for a moment. You're protecting him. Do-yoon. Jabari meets her eyes. I'm protecting the outcome. I'm not interested in burning everything down. I'm interested in the right thing being stopped. Chul's operation. Yes. And Do-yoon faces the legal process. Yes. Not my hands. The proper process. Adiz considers him for a long moment. Most people in your position would want maximum damage. Most people in my position didn't choose how the story got told, Jabari says quietly. I'm choosing. She nods. It is a nod of respect, the way a craftsperson recognizes another person thinking precisely about their work. She takes nothing from the table, no notes, no recordings. I'll be in touch, she says. Don't contact me from this email again. I'll send a new channel. She stands, looks once more at him, that quick sharp assessment, and walks out of the library. Jabari sits alone at the corner table. Around him, people move quietly through the stacks, pulling books, returning books, reading at tables, existing in the particular piece of a place built for thinking. He opens his sketchbook. He draws for an hour before he goes back to Temi's apartment. He does not draw designs this time, he draws a door. Just a door. Left slightly open. He does not know yet exactly what it means. But it feels true. And right now, truth is the only currency he has. Jabari stands outside the Cian Fashion Group building for 11 minutes before he goes inside. He is not frozen. He is not afraid, or he is afraid, but it is the clean, useful kind that sharpens you rather than stops you. He stands on the pavement across the street and looks at the glass and gray stone and thinks about the first time he came here in his second-hand navy blazer with his sketchbook and his hope and his complete ignorance of what waited inside. He goes in wearing something he made himself, a structured jacket from a bolt of deep indigo fabric he bought with the last of his saved money during his time at Temmie's. The seams are on the outside, visible and deliberate, the way his new collection is designed. He is not hiding anything today. The receptionist recognizes him. There is a brief, careful flicker of something, uncertainty, surprise, and then she picks up the phone. Jabari waits. He looks at the lobby the same way he looked at Chul in the cafe, steadily reading the room. 3 minutes later, Do-yoon's assistant appears and escorts him upstairs. The office is the same. The large desk, the 2 chairs, the window with the city behind it. Do-yoon is standing when Jabari enters, not at the window this time. He is in the center of the room as if he came forward when he heard Jabari was here and then stopped himself. He looks the same. Indifferent. There are shadows under his eyes that are deeper than they were, and his usual cold composure is present but thinner, like a coat worn one season too long. He looks like a man who has not been sleeping in the way that people do not sleep when they have something pressing against the inside of their chest at 3 a.m. Jabari closes the door behind him and sits in the chair across from the desk. Do-yoon after a moment sits too. They look at each other. Jabari speaks first. I found the file. I know, Do-yoon says. I found it that night. I read all of it. I know. My grandmother's name was in it. Jabari's voice does not break. It stays level and clear. Her town. Her address. Do-yoon holds his gaze. He does not look away, which takes something that most people would not understand. Yes. You chose me before you ever met me. You built a scenario to bring me into your building in a way that would feel accidental and natural. You designed it. Yes. And every late night and every car ride and every... Jabari pauses. Breeze. You had a file on me before I ever spilled coffee on you. Yes. The silence sits between them, heavy and honest. Did any of it become real? Jabari asks. Not bitterly. Actually asking. Do-yoon is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice is lower than usual. All of it became real. That was the mistake on my side. The plan was the plan. What happened between us was not the plan. That's convenient, Jabari says. I know. Do-yoon does not argue it. I know how it sounds. I know I don't get to use it as a defense. I'm not using it as one. Jabari looks at him. You built something real on top of something rotten. And I deserved better than to be your hiding place. The words land. Do-yoon receives them without flinching, without deflecting. He sits with them the way a person sits with a truth that has edges. I know, he says again. And then quieter, I've been keeping you safe. Since the night you left. I know, Jabari says. I noticed. Something moves across Do-yoon's face, surprise then something else. Something that does not have a clean name. I'm not here to forgive you, Jabari says. Not today. Maybe not for a long time. But I needed to look at you and say those things to your face. Not for you. He pauses. For me? Do-yoon nods. I know. Jabari stands. He straightens his jacket, the indigo one, the exposed seams, the thing he made himself. He picks up his sketchbook. He walks to the door. He puts his hand on the handle. He does not look back. A D's article publishes on a Thursday morning. Jabari reads it on Temmie's laptop at the small folding table surrounded by his sketches. It is long, 6,000 words, meticulously sourced, with financial records, corporate documents, and a network diagram showing the connections between Chul's various organizations and their reach into the city's import and distribution infrastructure. It is the kind of journalism that cannot be dismissed or argued with because it does not argue. It simply presents, with precision, what is true. Chul is named clearly and completely. His network is named. The methods are named. The harm caused, to workers, to smaller businesses swallowed or shut down, to the city's economic underbelly, is named. Do-yoon and Seon Fashion Group are referenced. Their connection to Chul's network is documented. The shell companies are listed. But the framing is careful. Seon appears as connected and compromised, not as the central criminal engine. The distinction matters legally and publicly. It is not exoneration. But it is precision. And precision, in journalism as in design, determines what actually holds together. By noon, Chul's name is trending. By afternoon, law enforcement has confirmed an active investigation. By evening, 2 members of Chul's inner organization have been brought in for questioning. Chul is arrested 4 days later. Jabari watches this unfold from the folding table, from the couch, from the chair by Temi's kitchen window. He watches it the way you watch something you set in motion. Not with triumph, not with pleasure, but with a quiet specific satisfaction that is entirely different from happiness. It is the feeling of a mechanism working correctly. Of a thing built carefully doing exactly what it was built to do. He chose how the story was told. That is the revenge. Not flames, not confrontation, not destruction. The quiet, deliberate, absolute power of deciding how the truth is released and what shape it takes when it lands. He was used as a tool. He became the one holding the tool. That is the reckoning. Cian Fashion Group's situation is more complicated. The company is investigated. Do-yoon is called in by authorities. Several large business partnerships dissolve within 2 weeks as associates distance themselves. The company's public image takes significant damage. Covers run, reporters appear outside the building, analysts report on falling confidence. But Do-yoon cooperates. Fully and without resistance. He provides documentation voluntarily. He does not protect himself at the expense of the process. He begins, quietly and without announcement, the dismantling of the criminal infrastructure that has lived beneath the legitimate company for 15 years. Jabari hears about this from Adiz, who hears it from sources. She passes it to Jabari in a single message. He's cooperating. Fully. Thought you should know. Jabari sits with that message for a long time. He does not know what to do with it yet. Maybe nothing. Maybe it means nothing about the future, about forgiveness, about any of it. Maybe it is simply a man doing what he should have done before he chose to use someone innocent. Maybe it is too late to matter. But it means something. It means something that he has not figured out how to hold yet. Temi comes and sits beside him on the couch. She has been following the news too. She hands him a bowl of rice and they sit together and watch the city through the window. The same city, still moving, still lit, still full of people with secrets and plans and love and damage. How do you feel? Temi asks. Jabari thinks about it honestly. Like I set something down that was very heavy, he says. And my arms don't know what to do yet because they're so used to carrying it. Temi nods. That's how free feels at the beginning. Jabari looks out the window. Somewhere out there, Chul is in a room with no windows. Somewhere out there, Do-yoon is in a room learning what accountability feels like from the inside. And Jabari is here. On a couch. With rice. With his friend. With his sketchbook. With all of himself still intact, still his. He picks up his pencil. The show happens 4 months later in a rented warehouse space on the edge of the city. It is not a grand fashion week event. There is no red carpet, no enormous guest list, no industry heavyweights in the front row. There is a long white runway made from boards Jabari and Temi painted themselves. There are chairs they borrowed and arranged. There are lights they rigged from a hardware store grid and positioned carefully over 3 evenings. There are 47 people in attendance. Jabari knows most of their faces. Adiz is there, in the 3rd row, in a deep green dress that makes her look like someone who just came from somewhere important. A few buyers from small independent boutiques. 3 bloggers who cover emerging designers with the kind of genuine attention that large platforms rarely manage. A professor from a design school who heard about the collection through a chain of word of mouth that Jabari still cannot fully trace. And his grandmother, in the front row, wearing a yellow dress she bought specifically for this evening, with her reading glasses on even though she will not be reading anything, because she wears them when she wants to see things clearly. Jabari stands backstage, a curtained area behind the runway, and looks at the 30 pieces arranged on their rails. The coat with the hidden interior. The dress with the outside seams. The 2 fabric jacket. Each one holding a piece of what he has been through. Each one translated from pain into form, not to erase the pain but to use it. To make it do something. The collection is called Carried. The show begins. Jabari does not watch from backstage. He watches from the side of the room, standing against the wall in a simple dark outfit, because he needs to see people seeing his work. He needs to watch the moment a garment crosses from being his to being understood by someone else. That crossing, that moment of recognition, is why he makes things. He watches people's faces. A woman in the 5th row touches her own collarbone when the jacket with the 2 fabrics passes. A young man leans forward when the coat walks by, trying to see the interior lining. Adiz writes something quickly in a small notebook she has in her lap. His grandmother, in the front row, has her hands folded in her lap and her eyes full of something that does not spill over. The show takes 31 minutes. When it is over, the room is quiet for a moment, the particular silence of people who have been moved and are still inside it, and then the applause begins. Real warm, unperformed. Jabari walks out onto the runway. He has done this walk many times in his head over the years, The imagined version, the one that lived in sketchbooks and in the back of his mind on long shifts at the laundry shop. The real version is different from the imagined one. Quieter. More specific. Less like an arrival and more like a return. Like coming back to a place that was always his, that he has simply finally built a physical address for. He stands at the end of the runway. He looks out at the room. He sees Temmie wiping her eye with the back of her hand and pretending she is not. He sees his grandmother, who has not pretended anything in her entire life, looking at him with the most complete expression he has ever seen on a human face. He does not make a speech. He simply nods once, a small, real gesture, and walks back. The fashion magazine that covers the show describes it as a debut that feels more like a reckoning than a collection. Jabari reads that line and folds the magazine page neatly and puts it in the inside pocket of the coat with the hidden lining. He does not tell anyone he does this. Some things are just for you. The letter arrives 6 months after the show. Jabari is in his own apartment by then. A real one, small but his, paid for by the advance from 2 boutiques that picked up pieces from Carried and a commission from a client who found him through the magazine coverage. It has good light in the mornings. He has taped sketches to the walls, the same way he always has, because some things about a person stay constant regardless of what changes around them. The letter has no return address. It is handwritten, which surprises him. He expected, if anything, a typed, formal communication from a lawyer or an assistant. But this is handwritten. Dark ink. Precise, controlled characters that still manage to carry something of the person who wrote them. He stands in his kitchen and reads it. It is short. Jabari, I watched you become everything you were already going to be. I am glad I did not take that from you. Do-yoon? That is all. No apology, he already gave that in the office in the only way that mattered. No request. No return address. No angle or ask or opening that leads somewhere else. Just that. 2 sentences. Precise like everything about him. Carrying the weight of everything not said. Jabari folds the letter. He stands in his kitchen for a long time. The light comes through the window the way it does every morning, warm and reliable, doing what light does without being asked. His sketchbook is on the counter, open to a half-finished design, a piece he has been working on for 3 days that he cannot get exactly right yet. He thinks about Do-yoon sitting down to write this. The careful man, the calculating man, the man who built strategy into every human interaction, choosing to write something that gave him nothing back. No opening, no hope offered, no door pushed. Just 2 sentences sent into a space with no guarantee of response. That is, Jabari thinks, the most honest thing Do-yoon has ever done. It is a thing built with no architecture beneath it. No plan. Just truth, offered plainly without expectation. He does not call. He does not write back. Not today. But he does not throw it away. He puts the letter in the inside pocket of the coat with the hidden lining, the one from the Carried collection that he kept for himself, the one that holds things only the wearer can see. He goes to his desk. He sits down. He picks up his pencil. He begins to draw something new, a coat for 2 people. Not the same coat, not one person hidden inside another's silhouette. 2 coats designed to complement each other when together, to stand complete when apart. He does not know yet if he will ever make it in real fabric. He does not know yet if it is a design or a wish or something still becoming itself. He draws it anyway. And somewhere across the city, in an office that is quieter now, emptied of certain meetings and certain men, being rebuilt from the inside out, Do-yoon sits at his desk. There is nothing in front of him. No folder. No file. No plan. For the first time in 15 years, the desk is simply a desk. He does not know if Jabari received the letter. He does not know if it meant anything. He made a decision long ago not to know, to offer the thing and release it, the way you put something into the world that you cannot control. He sits in the silence of his office. He allows himself to feel the weight of it, all of it, the whole accumulated mass of every decision, every plan, every person he moved like a piece without thinking about the person inside the piece. He allows himself to feel it. He does not move to make it stop. This is his work now. Not the company, not the dismantling, not the cooperation with investigators. This, sitting with what he did, feeling it completely, not running from it. This is what accountability looks like from the inside. Slow. Continuous. Without relief. He closes his eyes. Across the city, in good morning light, in a small apartment with sketches on the walls, Jabari draws a door left slightly open. Not wide open. Not closed forever. Just open.